Hey everyone, Karagon with Stealth Fox Gaming here, and today we got a behind the scenes look at update 37 for Foxhole. I gotta say, with what I saw, I'm pretty excited. This is a huge update, so pardon me if I talk a little bit too quickly here through this and kind of cut my way through a lot of stuff. Now we've got dog in the background. Oh, and Lucy decided to join us for that one, so don't worry about the sudden edit of the dog in the background there. I just want to preface this with saying that we only got a limited glimpse of what's to come, and there are several features that we didn't quite get access to just this time. This is going to be a two-part video, and the rest of it will come out once we get access to Devbranch and we can see the rest of the material. Also, keep in mind this is a work in progress and is subject to change. I'm not going to be digging into damage values as a result because from what we saw here today, that those are likely going to change here before the final release. And as always, if you like this content, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you're alerted for future videos. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop down in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you. Well, without any further ado, let's get into it. The vehicles have been updated to a modular platform. This means that they can easily be updated on the developer side, which will allow them a lot more flexibility to change things up in the future. Aside from a boatload of new vehicles, the vehicle physics systems underwent a massive overhaul, and this is a huge part of this update. These steer like an actual vehicle does now, with the vehicle turning from the front tires but the arc following the rear. Vehicles can also spin out now if you corner too fast. The surface will dictate how much traction is available to the vehicle. They have laid out 3 different surfaces, and it essentially breaks down into paved surfaces with 2 kinds of gravel surfaces, and then your standard off-road experience. Pavement offers the most traction, where off-road will offer the least. They also have fully featured suspension and differentials, allowing for more realistic handling. You can do handbrake turns, slow and gradual rolling stops, and the vehicle will accelerate slower and more realistically now as well. They will also be faster going downhill versus uphill. And hey, you can even parallel park now, which is pretty cool. Animations also got an overhaul, with vehicle destruction being more animated and finished looking now. The fuel system was also revamped. Now any vehicle can accept diesel or petrol. The main difference now is that petrol will make the vehicle faster. Armor in the game now has a new deflection system built into it, where rounds can skip off of the armor if they're shot at too shallow of an angle. There's also the ability to disable subsystems if you hit them correctly. Tanks can have their tracks damaged, which will make them move incredibly slowly. You can also hit them in the turret, damaging it, which will cause a smoking animation, and which means that the turret will no longer be operational. You won't be able to fire it anymore. And you can also, if you hit them in the back where the fuel tank is, you can cause a fuel leak, which will cause the tank to lose its fuel at an accelerated rate and leave a trail of fuel behind the tank for everyone to see. All of these problems are fixed by repairing the tank fully. The deflection system seemed very experimental still, and nobody was really able to get a solid understanding of how it worked. Essentially, if a shell is fired at too shallow of an angle, it has a high likelihood of skipping off and causing no damage. This will result in sparks flying and a pinging sound. If you get a round penetrating, it results in a big cloud of smoke without the resulting sparks and ping. This affects all projectiles that damage tanks, including RPGs. I'm excited to see how this affects tank combat going forward, but it clearly needs a little bit of refinement from how we saw it in the demo. Another big change is that each side will now have access to several new vehicles that are essentially the same on each side, with several more that are faction specific. This leads to an imbalance in the game, which will require strategy adjustment and more interesting and unique battles, as in reality no 2 sides are really going to have the same equipment. All vehicles have also undergone a rename, so the vehicles you're already used to are still there, just named differently. For the sake of brevity, I'm only going to list the new ones, and I'll try to keep this as quick as possible. Starting with the comma between both sides' vehicles and looking at the Warden one first, the O'Brien V121 Highlander, a tracked armored car. It has more armor and is better off-road, but as a result, is slower and handles worse than the traditional armored car. This will seat 2 people. The colonial equivalent is the T12 Acta Aeon, the Tankette. This seats 4 people and is an open-top variant. A long requested item in the game is a mobile anti-tank gun. Well, here it is, and starting with the Warden, Collins Cannon 68mm. This is a pushable anti-tank gun that moves and aims like the artillery does, but it's a direct fire weapon instead. It seats 2, the driver and the gunner, and packs a punch against armor. The Colonial variant is the AA2 battering ram. Both take 68mm rounds and just have different looks. Now we're going to start getting into the vehicles that are unique to each side until we hit the tanks. There are a few shared ones in that category as well. Starting with the light utility vehicles, the Wardens now have the Drummond Spitfire 100D. This is an open-top LUV that seats 3 with a mounted LMG in the back. Colonials have the UV-05A Argonaut, an open-top LUV that seats 4, great for speeding more people around. Colonials also have the 00MS Stinger, a motorbike with an LMG mounted on the sidecar. Next up is the Warden Dune Landrunner 12C, and I'm sorry I didn't get any footage of this vehicle. This is a tracked LUV, better off-road, but again having slower speeds and worse handling. Colonials have the UV-24 Icarus, which is an open-top LUV with a mounted RPG in the back. This one reminds me kind of like a recoilless rifle truck, it seats 3. For the new half-tracks, the Wardens field the Niska Mark II Blinder, a half-track with a mounted anti-tank gun with the same caliber as the pushable field version. The same caliber anti-tank gun. This is very slow and not very agile, but the fact that you've got the anti-tank gun mounted in the back of the half-track is pretty awesome. Colonial's new extra half-track is the HHB Hoplite, a much heavier armored but slower version. This maintains the HMG in the back, and other than being more durable and slower, is essentially the same as the original half-track. Next up for the Colonials is the AB-11 Doru, the standard APC now featuring a mounted HMG. Now let's talk the tanks, my favorite. The Wardens now field the Devitt Ironhide Mark IV. This is a light tank with more armor and special tracks to make it soak up more damage. This seats the traditional 3. The Colonials field a direct counterpart, the H5 Hatchet. This appears to be the equivalent of the Warden tank, but just with different graphics, so heavier tank armor as well. For new battle tanks, the Wardens have the Flood Mark V, a longer barreled version of the standard battle tank that gives it extra range. At current, when we tested it out, it was 5 meters, but remember, this may change. The Wardens also have the Flood Mark VII, which is the standard battle tank, but with more armor, making it tougher to knock out. The equivalent is the Lance 40 Halberd. Same thing again, just different looks. Lastly, the 2 biggest, baddest tanks in the field. Representing the Wardens is the Silverhand Mark IV. This fields 2 main cannons, a 65mm non-rotatable front-mounted gun, and a 40mm main gun on the traditional turret. The rival to this tank for the Colonials is the 8C7 Ballista. This shoots a huge 250mm mortar cannon on a rotatable turret, and its rounds count as heavy objects. It has a range dial like artillery does and will require a commander to feed ranges to the gunner. This is very gratifying to see and hear this thing shoot. The Harvester is still in the game, but with a rename. There is also now a scrap hauling vehicle. No more having to park a crane at resource fields, loading and unloading containers onto the back of flatbeds. Drive this thing straight into the field, load it directly, and offload it just as easily. Very nice. On the trench front, they received emplacements, an octagonal-shaped pit. This can have emplacement structures placed into them which will grant them a buff to hit points and their rotation speed. The 2 emplacements added are the 14.5mm anti-infantry flak gun, made for cutting down advancing infantry, and the 68mm anti-tank cannon for dealing with advancing armor. Both are incredibly gratifying to shoot. Several map changes also made their way into this update. Again, we didn't see this is just from the dev blog. Well, that's all the stuff that we do know here. I'm sure the Devbranch will have the rest of us here soon. There's still lots more to come in that second video, so make sure you stay tuned. I'll link it kind of somewhere up over here and down in the description as well when it comes out. As always, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe so you're alerted for future videos. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Also, don't forget to check out some of the other Foxhole content creators that are out there. They are also producing some great footage on this update here and just great footage in Foxhole in general. You can easily find them just by searching Update 37 Foxhole on YouTube and you'll be able to find them. Why not, while you're at it, join the Discord, get in with the discussion, join the official Foxhole Discord and become part of the discussion and get your voice heard, or just chat about the game or whatever. I'll link that down below in the description for you as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe out there, and as always, stay foxy.